guys, welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, Tinsel Steelus lost the Firefield race against Miss Killer, and so she took her victory. God only knows what'll happen to the task force. So, let's find this out, shall we? I've been waiting for weeks to do this lap. Rick is finally the first of Black Shadow's newest recruits. What would he do? How would Tinsel deal with his menace? Where would the confrontation be? How would Dark Million get involved? All of the answers are about to be unveiled. Well, I've been waiting for this. I've been dreading for this moment since the first day I started writing F-Zero, but here it is. F-Zero GP Legend, ending it all. Lap 7. I hate to disappoint you all, so let's do this. Let's go. Just a few moments ago, Luna Ryder won the Grand Prix in Firefield. Thanks to the prize money, the process was sped up as Black Shadow was working on a dark solution which was originally created by him and Zoda. It was the same type of mind-controlling agent that affected Tinsel as she won the hovercraft hub competition. It was experimental, but being very persistent and determined, the demon decided to test it out on the mobile task force. It was proven to be successful as he and Miss Killer watched Rick in a tank react to it. The fluid was inserted and his body began to convulse for a few minutes. Eventually he became limp. Then the container was drained and the dead soldiers gave him a quick makeover after carrying him out. Rick began to come to, and his body tightened while his hands clenched into fists. The first person he saw was Luna. My dearest Rick, at long last we finally meet again, she said with a grin. His pupils were enlarged as he gazed up at her. Even he was unusually fond in seeing her. In this disturbing yet assuring place. He hadn't actually been here before, though the environment was somehow welcoming in a sense. And then there was Haruka, or rather Miss Killer, standing over him. Rick was reluctant as she gave him a hand. That feeling when he touched her was so comforting, as if he belonged here all this time. He felt he was at home, reunited with his long-lost love. How I've waited for this day after 150 years, she whispered as she touched his cheek. Interestingly enough, he never flinched, nor did he retaliate. So have I. He was just as stunned as she was. Well, well, Zoda barged in, spoiling the mood. Look what the black cat dragged in. Wheeler and Miss Killer, sitting in a tree. K-I-S-S, Zoda! Rick lunged toward his nemesis. At last his grudge for him hasn't changed. He was still his trigger, pure and simple. That's enough blobbering, Zoda! We have just acquainted to our new recruit. Show him some of our gratitude. Thankfully, a vehement voice boomed as it interrupted the impending brawl. Black Shadow scolded, Stay away from him for the moment. We have a deadly mission to accomplish here, and we don't need your meddling. Of course, Black Shadow. The crazed criminal chickened out as he scampered away from them. I'll deal with you later, Wheeler, he said before he emerged into the shadows. Rick didn't listen or acknowledge as he saw the proud, diabolical being face to face. Without hesitation, he walked up to him, and the solution affected more of his body and mind. He had proven his loyalty when he bowed down to him. Lord Shadow. Indeed. Welcome to our headquarters in Darkstar. I'm delighted to make your acquaintance, Wheeler, as I've heard you are a dedicated F-Zero pilot. I actually had this brilliant idea from Zoda after altering Tinsel's mind. It seemed to have worked for a time. so I was lucky we have found you instead, as well as some of your friends." Pointing to the other tanks, and the servants saw Jack and the others in their own corresponding containers. You'll be seeing them very soon, Wheeler. With your talent, Dark Million shall be so impassable, not even the dreaded bounty hunter Falcon can beat us." He stuck up a finger as Rick rose. "Oh, have you noticed we've made some rearrangements?" A dim ray of light was shown a few feet away. On a ledge the dragon bird stood, although it was not the same. Instead of having its white exterior, it was all black combined with the red from the exhaust pipes in the roof. On that there was an etching of a face of a snarling dragon, wearing Black Shadow's eyes. Plus the rear had a spike on each side, making it deadly on the tracks. "It is the dragon bird no more, Wheeler. Since it's your machine, what would you like to call it?" Luna faced him in anticipation, but he was astonished of his new outfit. This filled him with a deep sense of pride and identity. Looking at himself and then the more sinister machine, Rick declared it as the Dark Star Dragon. "An admirable choice, Rick." Black Shadow considered the same. "There is an assignment that you must accept. You realize there's only one of the task force members that we hadn't inducted yet." "Tinsel. She's our greatest adversary yet, next to Falcon." "You know her well, Wheeler." "Yes, Lord Shadow. She's quite a formidable opponent even when she races. We must cut her strings in her alliance with those other pilots. You know what you must do." His voice deepened as his hand curled and his eyes narrowed. "I must kill her. She will never stand a chance against me. I have also hired Miss Killer to do the job. She won't be an easy feat to take down alone." "Mission together at last. We'll make sure that Tinsel will be vanquished for good. It'll be our first time carrying out Dark Million's bidding as one." His grip tightened around her hand, and then a Darth soldier offered him some gloves he'd never seen. He put them on. They were also red and black, much like the Dark Star Dragon. They too had an emblem of his master's face. "This looks and feels amazing," Rick thought after he adjusted them. He was so fascinated with all the changes he'd experienced. And better yet, he was reunited with Haruka within the darkness. No pain, agony, nor pressure got in his way. He was almost invincible. "Carry out the mission as Miss Killer instructs you, Wheeler. Tinsel must be exterminated at all costs. Do not hold back, as she was a former friend of yours. And handle the Dark Star Dragon well. You must succeed, and only you can." "I will not fail you, Black Shadow. You can count on it." He gave a low bow. The demon disappeared and the corrupt couple got to work. Meanwhile, Tinsel was racing with her colleagues on the Old Meat City course. This was actually different from the same one she used earlier before her racing green plant. It was modified from the first course in the Night League 13 years ago with landmines and no jump plates. The turns were a lot sharper this time around. In order to stand a better chance against Black Shadow and his thugs, she figured the best place would be the track used as the first round during the King League. They all accepted the challenge. They unanimously thought it was a good way to toughen them up. The Silver Comet crossed the finish line first, then the Mighty Typhoon, followed by the Space Angler, Hyperspeeder, and finally the Twin Narita. Needless to say, it was last since it received the most damage. They each had a sigh of relief now that the race was done. "Man, that was a tough one." "It sure was." "That was quite a decent practice run, Tinsel." "Yeah." "I thought so, guys. I hope this would help us improve our skills for the next competition," Tinsel stated, still remembering the sword defeat in Firefield. "We still need to book well in advance for it. I can't possibly win on my own. Not after last time." There was a chirp coming from her communicator. It was Clank, and he was so ecstatic. Tinsel! I hate to interrupt, but you gotta see this. Nah, it's okay. You didn't interrupt anything. What is it, Clank? Did you find something? Yes, I did. You gotta go to the Falcon House immediately. Hurry! It's urgent. The signal ended just before she responded. She took the walkie-talkie and said to the other racers they must head there ASAP. Leon asked, "What did he find? Is it from the task force? From Lucy?" "I don't know. He didn't say. But we must head to the Falcon House at once. He said it was urgent." They soon arrived at the diner, and the tech geek nearly knocked her down as soon as she stepped in. "Tinsel, thank goodness! You have to come quick." He showed her a beacon that was emanating from some location on his tablet. It was trapped somewhere in planet Alcatran in some kind of desolate ice mountain. "The signal is emitting from a certain location in Alcatran. It's close to Whiteland." The sound of that made her gasp. She would never forget that horrid place. "My gosh, this must be some kind of SOS signal. Can you make it out the machine?" "I can try." Clank scanned the beacon, and eventually there was a match as it outlined the vehicle it belonged to. Her heart raced as she saw it. "Ah, it's Rick! I hope he's all right." "Rick, you must hurry along, Tinsel." "I will, but I'm bringing Leon with me, if you don't mind." "No problem. Besides, I can help you track him with my nose. It won't be easy trying to find someone trapped under all that ice and snow. I can handle it just fine." "Thanks." She gave him a pet of appreciation. "I owe you one." "Nah, we're even." "Please save Rick, Tinsel, and Leon. I'm not sure how long he'll stand out." "Don't worry, he's tough. I should thank you greatly for finally receiving a signal from him. Come on, let's boogie." "Right, let's go." The others stayed put, since their machines needed some fine-tuning, so the Comet and the Angler were the ones to set foot into the most treacherous area of her troubled past. Since it was her best friend, she couldn't let her fears interfere. Through the workgate they felt a slight chill. The Comet was accustomed to extreme environments, and Leon's fur kept him warm. Still, Tinsel was shivering both from the freezing air and her nervousness. They continued to follow the signal Clank gave them on their locators. They kept nearing the mountain within every second. Thankfully, there wasn't a blizzard greeting them, although they had to watch for any patches of black ice. "Almost there, Leon. Hang in there, Rick." "Keep your fingers crossed. I hear that humans can't be exposed for too long. It's pretty deadly. His best chance is to stay in his machine." They were so focused on the signal and the slippery ground that they didn't notice an oncoming machine slam into Tinsel from behind. "Whoa! What the hell was that?" Upon close examination from the rear view on the dashboard, which was giving a warning, it was... "That's the Dragon Bird?" She was completely astonished as she saw its new, more sinister look. Suddenly it was upon her. "Leon, it's Rick! He's been brainwashed by Black Shadow!" "What? So the rumors were true after all!" "Ah!" His craft was also crashed into by someone else. Leon had his hands full with another vehicle hitting him. It was the Moon Shadow, and Miss Killer just sneered at her unfortunate targets. The Darkstar Dragon rammed Tinsel again. She couldn't take any more punishment. "You go and distract Miss Killer. I'll take on Rick. She's dangerous. Be careful." "I will. Brace yourself, Tinsel." He bared his fangs and faced his enemy. There was no pit areas or speed plates along the two paths, so they had to rely on their wits and luck. Considering he had better handling on the black ice, he had the advantage along with his sharp reflexes. Even though they had the same speed and his body was weaker than hers. As she kept sliding, it was his golden opportunity to side attack her. Then as she was closing in on his tail, he performed a side attack which was more constant, causing the Moon Shadow to collide and go out of control. Thanks to the black ice, it was temporarily out of commission, allowing Leon to catch up to Tinsel and Rick. He headed back as he skidded and sped away. Tinsel was lucky she was able to use her booster, but Rick was always nipping her tail. She wanted to get ahead and stay away from him until she got to the mountain. The boost sacrificed some of her energy, but it was very little compared to the abuse the comet endured. He constantly used the Dark Star's strength and kept on bashing her. As she headed straight to the mountain, she finally hit an ice wall as she spun out from another merciless direct hit. Both her car's body and her own were battered. She was blinded by the high headlights as they refracted from the walls. She was like a deer stunned by them. Closing in for the kill, Rick made a sneer as he tightened his grip on the wheel. The sound of his death-bringing declaration echoed throughout the mountain's interior. Time for you and your comet to make an icy tune, Tinsel! Yeah! Rick, you cannot. No! No! Desperate to bring him back and to save her skin, she slammed her fists on the thrusters and unleashed the ice jets, nearly freezing the dragon on contact. It only made a blockade covering the nose of the machine. Still having an appetite for destruction, he opened the hatch and jumped out, just as Tinsel left hers. She couldn't believe what she was seeing as she looked at his malevolent appearance. Using his new shoes, he didn't mind the ice as they had better friction than normal ones. The cold air was nothing to him as he breathed heavily like a dragon, and smoke left his mouth. Tinsel wasn't as fortunate. She was freezing from the frigid temperature and fear. Rick? Rick? With all his might, he charged straight toward the terrified pilot. Ah! She covered her eyes and she hardly noticed Leon being involved in the scrimmage as he wrestled with him. Leon! She cried after covering her vision. She could do nothing except watch her two best friends shed their blood. The anthropomorphic leaped and tackled him to the ground. They rolled for a few seconds, then he fought off with his fangs and claws. Rick kept him at bay and kicked him off. Then Leon rolled a bit hard on his arm. Rick managed to swipe him with his free arm, and Leon let out a low howl. He tried again, but he missed as Rick moved. He retaliated and threw him aside, toward the spiky structure. He went down on all fours, and a gash was in his lower back. Leon! Tinsel screamed in as much agony as him. Seeing the damage he caused, Rick just stood over him, took out his gun, and said, I will put you down and ease your suffering. Meet your death for Black Shadow! Leon, no! Tinsel got involved as she ran toward the manic detective, making a stranglehold. Rick dropped the gun from his fishy grip, then he grabbed onto her hands and threw her down over his shoulder. His strong hands were crushing her windpipe, but she managed to kick him in the groin. Ah! Vulnerable, she punched him across the face and took him down. She punched him again, and Rick actually stopped when his pupils shrunk to their normal size. She was about to land another punch on him, but he held her shaking hand back, gazing straight into her eyes. Tinsel? She soon got off of him after she looked at his, and they both stood in shock. Is it really you? Rick? Her voice let out a raspy whisper. He nodded in confirmation, but she backed off. No! I know it's you, but you're a part of Dark Million, aren't you? I was, but you saved me, he said as he was rubbing a swollen cheek. His arm wasn't any better as it burned from Leon's deep fang marks. He held it for a brief seconds. She looked at him skeptically and didn't say a word, still thinking he was playing a trick. Please, I can explain everything, but not here. It isn't safe. This place was known to house some of the galaxy's most dangerous criminals, including Zoda. This was a secret hideout after Black Shadow invaded here. You must evacuate now, before Miss Killer will return. There was a pregnant pause. His voice softened despite the pain. Tinsel, you have to trust me, just as we did before. Look past the dark uniform and see me for who I truly am. A friend. She took a deep exhale, then looked at Leon, who got on his feet and held the wound. It was deep, but at least he wasn't bleeding profusely. Eventually she accepted. All right, I'll go with you, but I'm taking Leon with me just in case. Fair enough. I'll lead you two out of here. Follow me. The Darkstar Dragon led the Comet and the Angler to a warp gate. They soon materialized in the outskirts of Meat City. Are you sure we should listen to Rick? I could still smell some bile from him. His back was healing thanks to a cloth Tinsel had. With the Comet's ice jets, it was always a quick way to recuperate. I used to vouch for him, but I can't be certain. Rick barely heard the conversation, and he became glum. Despite that, he kept his resolve. This is the spot. After they parked near the apartment complex, she told Leon to wait a few feet away while Rick recapped the events. Not much was known about the task force's disappearance. Not even the commissioner knew. But before they went missing, Rick, out of curiosity, wondered whatever happened to his loved one, Haruka. Was she really gone? If so, what happened to her? Could she be working for Dark Million after all? To find the answers, he looked up at the archives from 150 years ago. What he found shocked him to the core. According to the obituary, it was said that Haruka died from a broken heart. At least it was what it seemed. On that night when Rick was involved in that tragic accident chasing the escaped convict Zoda, Haruka was devastated. He remembered breaking his promise, not showing up at the Brooklyn Bridge, and later made the proposition. She ended up in another accident shortly after Zoda was finally apprehended and banned into Planet Alcatran. Rumors kept circling around Rick's fate. Some say he was dead, but not many said he was in cold sleep. Haruka, under her weak breath, actually wanted to join him when he awakens. If he really was in cryosuspension, which she strongly believed. She was also inactive. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to recover. Her wounds were too great, and the time of death was declared during her loss. After finding out the truth, Rick's heart was broken. Even tears started to fall. Haruka. She's gone. He left the task force behind discreetly, and he lost his will to race or even cope. He kept asking why would his lover do such a desperate attempt to end her life? Why was he the only one who lived through it despite Zoda? Later, while he was hiding away within an empty alley, Dark Million ambushed him, though he lost his will to fight. Luna was there, as was Zoda, but they never killed him. Biorex and the Skull were holding him back. Luna stabbed him with the same knife she used before, making him weaken more. As Rick looked at Luna, he saw a glimpse of... God. Don't call me that, she retorted. Then they knocked him out and inserted a dark solution into his neck. It was a coordinate that connected the spine to the brain, making him one of the first servants for them. As it happened, the task force disbanded looking for him, but their fate was still unknown, until he was able to see Jack and the task force at Darkstar, but not for very long. After Rick left in remorse, Tinsel told the tale to Leon. So that's why it happened. He lost his will to fight after finding out about Haruka? What a waste. His friends must be there too. He does keep blaming himself, but with Rick on our side we can find a way to get them back and stop Dark Million. He's our only hope. And that's why you risked your neck pursuing him. He means a great deal to you, doesn't he? You really believe that? I do. Rick is the one who can help us achieve victory. Him and Falcon. She wished that you could recover eventually. Must stay with him for the night. He really needs someone. Go to him. I'll be fine. We'll be waiting for you. Meanwhile, Rick was discarding his uniform and replaced it with the usual red tee. He hoped that Tinsel would freeze it all with the Comet's ice jets and soon break the remains, as they were painful reminders of how he used to be. He had never worked for evil before, and through his painful pangs, he knew firsthand how it felt. The guilt, the weakness and the impulses, the flashbacks and what he'd done. They were as clear as day and very intrusive. To clear his mind and rinse the dark inky residue from his eyes, he dunked his head into a running faucet. As he dried, he headed to his bedroom. It was home-like, yet somehow he felt he wasn't there in a good long while. He instantly wondered where he put his memos, hoping they weren't stolen by Dark Million. He had such relief as he saw the portrait of him and Haruka, the golden locket, and the engagement ring safe and intact. He grabbed the velvet case, opened it, and gazed at its luster. The diamond was shining just like Haruka's eyes did so long ago. Then his mind drifted to all the happy times he spent with her, from just hanging out and dating to her endless support after he won and lost each race he participated in, even the cruise they took. His heart began to soar, until the images in his head became distorted and omniscient. He was in complete fright as he saw Miss Killer replacing her innocence, as well as the accident Zoda caused before he was put into cold sleep. Even the fight he said he had with Tinsel and Leon. His head throbbed and his arms stung, and he held the former tightly with both hands, trying to resist the agony and the hallucinations. He shook his head and opened his eyes. His sight was blurry, but he was back in his room again. Then, from the resistance, his body and mind started to weaken. His strength dissipated little by little, and he felt so lost as he saddened, until he literally passed out from the mounting fatigue. Tinsel was lucky they both shared the same complex but different apartments. It wasn't too hard to find his, even in the dark halls. She opened the door slowly and saw Rick sound asleep on the bed close to the plasma screen. It was inactive for weeks. He never heard her knock. She was so restless and so she wanted to pay him a visit, though she felt a little guilty to barge in with her PJs. Still, she gathered some courage and whispered his name. Rick? He stirred and rose up slowly to see who was speaking to him. Tinsel? Even he never saw her in that fashion. Can I stay with you tonight? Or perhaps sleep next to you? He grinned and nodded his assent. Of course. He invited her to climb in. They dozed off after a few seconds as they snuggled into their welcoming arms. The next morning he decided to visit an old friend. She had her answer as he took her inside the Star Dragon to the Falcon House. Clank was very enthusiastic to see him as he thought he was gone forever. So did Bert. I'm glad you found him, Tinsel. Actually, he was the one who found me first. Rick asked her to give them some privacy, and she and Clank went to another part of the diner while having breakfast. She described the new friends she met. She couldn't wait to show Rick. Still, he lamented over the past ordeal, and with just the two of them they cannot win. Who said it only has to be the two of us, Rick? I've made some friends while you were gone. She explains of Octaman's so-called appreciation at Greenplant, but he never appeared again. She clarified that he's only working for Dark Million and has an outstanding criminal record, just because he needs some money to support his war-torn family and protect himself from the Milky Way Federation. Rick said he's a target since he's considered a threat, but somehow Tinsel convinced him otherwise, as he's a target since as she recapped the Grand Prix a year ago, while she worked with Captain Falcon. She, Clank, and Bert also discussed all the races she and her allies competed in, including her defeat in Firefield. Both of the guys were stunned as they saw the black machine Rick owned, and what Black Shadow did to it. A few hours had passed, and she wanted to show Rick her new buddies. I'm glad you made it in one piece, Rick. Me too. They did a fist bump, and Tinsel led him the way. The kid was still a bit uneasy as he looked at the Dark Star Dragon. He hoped he'll turn it back to the way it was. She later showed Leon and the others to him at the Old Meat City track, where they were waiting for them. Most of the pilots he already knew, except for the two young men, the one with the weird spiky hair and the guy who remarkably had the same name as him. They were all delighted to see the missing champion in person. Rick couldn't be more amazed to meet Drac, Gomar and Shio, Yugi and Joey, Beastman, and of course Leon. He wanted to have no hard feelings, especially after biting his arm. Rick forgave him, but he wasn't sure about the Furicake people since he knew they were criminals. Tinsel assured him that they'd been put on probation after bail, just to make sure they wouldn't steal any more car opponents. her components in a desperate attempt for cash-ins. At first the duelists didn't come to Tinsel's aid since they were too busy fighting darts in the great Leviathan. Everyone could all relate to the fallen hero's sudden realization. Leon with the possibility of losing the pups at Zhao, Joey with his younger sister, Yugi with his grandfather, Drac with his partner Roger Buster, and Gomar and Shia losing each other as well as their clan. Since they all had a common goal, Tinsel declared they must fight together, and that Rick is in charge. But she wasn't done yet. She also took Rick to see Rodney Stewart, someone whom he didn't know. He was surprised that Dr. Robert Stewart never mentioned his son, one who was a prestigious physicist, but not an F-Zero racer. She made an appointment around the afternoon for an introduction. Ah, Tinsel! Glad to see you've returned. Is the formula safe? Yes, it is. Your father doesn't know it yet. I hadn't gotten the chance to see him. He could still be with Darkmillion as their asset. I hope I'll be out of that bind soon. His face brightened as he turned to him. But at least you got Rick back, so there's still hope. As far as I know, he's one of the most promising pilots in the circuit next to my old man. Thanks. It means a lot. Come, this way. Rodney lent him a hand to the examination bed with Tinsel close behind. I need to give you a thorough checkup to see if you're still tainted. I was really surprised you were able to snap out of Darkmillion's control and not receive the formula my father made. But now's the time. We must proceed at once. He prepared himself for the procedure. Tinsel handed him the syringe with its sharp point protected. Rick started to cringe a little at the sight of it. Sensing his slight alarm, he assured him, Just try and relax, Rick. It won't take long. He used the stethoscope and also examined the arm where Leon bit him. He then scanned it and he was grateful the wound wasn't infected nor had rabies. When the examination was complete, Rodney grabbed a wet cotton ball and applied it to Rick's upper neck. Then he began the insertion. This might feel a bit weird. Tinsel laid her hands on him as he stuck the sharp point into him. The fluid was injected a few seconds later, making him feel a temporary pain and some numbness. By the time it was done, Rodney removed the needle slowly from the site and covered it up with a bandage. She asked if Rick was all right. He just gave her a slow nod. You might want to rest before you get the full effect. It's likely your mind could short-circuit if you manage to stay awake. Tinsel, would you stay with him? Of course. Minutes later, a spare pillow and a blanket were brought in. Rick began to feel lightheaded in a matter of seconds as he felt something inside his skull, kind of like a buzz. Then it was almost like an anesthetic as he dozed off. Tinsel could have sworn she heard some mumble about feeling the same thing as he went into cold sleep. Your mind is being cleansed from whatever toxins are left over. Rest, Rick. Wake up soon. Let's hope it won't be in for another 100 years. He became very still. Tinsel caressed his hands. Thanks for all your help, Doc. It's the least I can do, Tinsel. You'll need him well again. And the other members of the task force. Have you found them yet? Don't give up. Finding Rick was quite a start. I can see why you love him so much. What? How do you... Don't blame yourself. The heart is all that matters. You should pay attention on what it says. Do not doubt yourself and be contradicted. You must follow what's important to you. You might want to tell him. I was nervous at first since he was still suffering from survivor's guilt and the fact that he lost Haruka after being comatose for so long. I believe you should express how much you care for him after he awakens. Always follow your heart, Tinsel. He may have some feelings for you too. I hope so. Meanwhile, Rick heard a cheery female voice whisper to him, though he couldn't make it out. He saw a little light at the end of a tunnel where he felt lonely and hopeless. By the time he looked at it and kept listening to it, he recognized who it belonged to. That voice. He emerged and it began to blind him temporarily until he saw her smiling face. Haruka! They've made a warm embrace and he held her tight, never wanting to let her go. Her face turned serious as they broke off. Is there something wrong? Rick, I can be with you only for this moment. We cannot stay here for too long. There is still so much at stake, and you will wake up soon. Haruka, why am I here? Couldn't tell if he was dead or not, probably still under the anesthetics. So perhaps he was only dreaming. Rick, you must listen to me. My spirit has left my body 150 years ago. That woman named Miss Killer was a byproduct from Black Shadow. He was the one who reanimated my vessel and transformed it into an abomination. Ah, Dark Million must be stopped for good, and the galaxy must be saved. Otherwise, I cannot find rest. You're the only one who can do this, Rick. I know you will, but you mustn't do it alone. Tinsel and your friends are the only ones who are willing to fight by your side. I know. I will save them. She opened and looked into her eyes. This was something that was hard to say. She needs you now, more than ever. Haruka! Do not grieve for me. I've watched over you for the last century and a half. I can take care of myself up here, but you still need someone by your side, and that someone is Tinsel. You gave your love to me. Now share it with her. I want you to be strong as she can help heal your wounds. Please, Rick, give her a chance. And prevent Black Shadow from succeeding at all costs. I will. Whatever you do, do not let Miss Killer intimidate you. Just remember, one day we will be reunited. But until then, my spirit will always be with you, in your heart. Do not let it be tainted again. She kissed him on the cheek, and then they gave a deep smooch to each other. As she released him one last time, his body started to fade. She said with a smile, Go in peace, Rick. Tinsel was there when Rick woke up in recovery. His eyes cleared and he saw Tinsel laying over him from the right side. He also gazed upon the locket and the ring next to him on the nightstand. He felt Haruka's kindred spirit in his heart, where she said she'll stay, hence the warmth. His body was almost completely immobilized from the anesthetics, and he was just as groggy. Tinsel. It's great to have you back, Rick. How are you feeling? He hadn't felt this way before, so calm-minded and mellow. He figured it was just the chemicals, and that they'll wear off in time. How long was I out of it? About 10 hours. We actually missed a race. What? I'm kidding. We never missed a thing. At least you weren't asleep for another century and a half. Rick started to raise his hands and move them. He felt his body getting stronger. He sat up slowly. His head swam a little. Oh, someone has been wanting to see you. Hi, Rick. Clank. Great to see you're still alive and kicking. But I have some bad news. One of the latest machines had just enlisted in the next race. The Astro Robin. Jack! Is he a part of Dark Million? I'm assuming he is. You have to enter and get him back. The Space Angler will be there too. Thank goodness. Leon will really help us out. We have to go there. Where is it? It's actually in Rick's former hometown, in Aeropolis. We can definitely win this one. I didn't know you lived there, Rick. I thought it was in Mute City, or New York. I moved there when I was young. I lived pretty close, actually. Oh, you gotta see it. It's literally transformed. I practiced once in the Ruby Cup last year, and I loved it ever since. The courses are like 30,000 feet above, and the view is just dramatic as you cruise through them, even alongside those mega skyscrapers. This place is incredible. Did you know it is being run on a supercomputer? The Mother Q is the central unit that provides the community in an ideal living environment, and its skyscrapers can regenerate and breed new ones, suiting their ever-increasing population. Rick was undoubtedly enthralled by this. He couldn't wait to see what it's like. I hope this would help you. I hope this would help you appreciate our time a bit more. It already has. It was nightfall by the time they finally left the hospital around 10 p.m. Rodney wished the trio luck and reminded Tinsel she must use the syringe on any of the task force members they come across. Do not let my father know about this. Please keep it safe. It must not fall into the wrong hands. We won't. The young steward successfully made a replica of the formula so she could use it multiple times. Rick noticed the Darkstar Dragon was missing as it wasn't in the same place where he left it. Clank admitted that while he was asleep he called Tinsel and some of her friends to give him a big surprise. The Silver Comet was docked in the lot just a few feet down. She confirmed it was true in what the prodigy did, and he wasn't the one who hacked into it, but repaired it. In the garage at HQ, some parts of the Dragon Ghost replaced those from the Darkstar Dragon. To Rick it was pretty much the same. The white body was back, and the portions with the creepy colors and designs were scrapped away. We've been through a lot together. It feels like so long ago. Clank managed to tweak its settings and restore it to how it used to be. Rick was very astonished that it had decent components from the Dragon Bird and the Dragon Ghost. Now you got the best of both time periods in one machine. Yeah, I really like this. Thanks, Clank. No problem, Ricky. Glad I can help. I really appreciate you returning to our side. I can't wait to give it a test run. Well, it's kind of late, don't you think? It's already 10:30. Ugh. Besides, spending all these hours at Rodney's place can take its toll. It's such a grind. I can see that. I should get going. You best be careful, you two. Dark Million might be looking for you guys. Good point. I'll try and enhance the safeguards around here. We really need some place to set up shop. Tinsel thought for a second to invite Leon, Beastman, Drac the Duelists, and Gomer and Shion here, but she disregarded the idea as the headquarters were meant for task force members only. She found a comfortable couch to lay on. After he made the safety protocols, about an hour has passed. Rick saw her rest once more. Then he went in the closet and laid a thick blanket on her. He continued to watch over her. Everything will be all right. I will stay with you so you can rest. He promised to protect her. While she slept, Rick was like the night owls. He stayed up until the crack of dawn. The next morning was the day for the big race, as well as their training. In Aeropolis, Tinsel met Rick in the garage, fine and dandy. Ready to give the slightly modified Dragon Bird a spin, Rick? You bet, Tinsel. I'm back and better than ever. That remains to be seen. Meet me on the track. They wound out of a multiplex, and Rick was nothing short on being overwhelmed by this amazing aerial metropolis. As they closed in on the course, the machines ascended higher and higher, until they were slightly above the clouds. There were also some advanced planes and hovercars flying around the gorgeous scenery. According to Clank's research, Rick as a kid actually lived at the location before it was named Aeropolis back in his time. The Silver Comet and the Dragon Bird arrived on the track, and it was a one-on-one race. He and Tinsel were both enamored as they whizzed through the thin metal track using the numerous speed plates. They also needed to watch out for landmines, although if they hit one directly, they could get a boost. It was incredibly exhilarating when they used the single jump plate on the side as well as the drop they came across. Not even the dirt roads hindered the thrilling experience. They competed who would complete the course the fastest, using all the gimmicks in their boosters. Didn't matter who won, and they made sure they weren't too reckless where they would fall off course or crash into a nearby machine. They knew in advance those weren't for show. They made 3 laps, and at one point Tinsel could have sworn they were flying as they kept leaping off the ramp with a sudden boost. Just how a comet and a dragon bird should. Soon enough it was over. Both machines stopped and the pilots were ecstatic as they attempted to calm themselves. Wow! That was incredible! I hadn't had this much fun on any F-Zero track. We're definitely gonna nail this one. I couldn't agree more, Tinsel. By the time they collected their bearings, he told her about Haruka. I remember racing with her. We too had some fun times together. Really? She used to be a talented driver as well? What was she like back then? She was known as the Racing Queen back then. They competed against each other, but only during practice runs. They never did it during the Big Apple tournaments unlike today. He also said that he fell in love with her as they had so much in common, including racing. She was fascinated that he was both a talented competitor and police officer. He met her when she was 21. Her mom was a fashion designer, her dad was a diplomat. They grew closer and closer as they saw each other more, even during races. She was the one who carried him forward when he won or even lost as an amateur. It was no wonder that Black Shadow recruited her, rather than just bringing back someone from his past. But being with Tinsel reminded him of those times. They were so similar that maybe... The alarm chirped on the Dragonbird's dash, interrupting his reverie. Oh, we should get going. The next race is about to start. We cannot be late. I'll be right behind you, Rick. And so they were off. They both hoped that things wouldn't take a turn for the worse, especially for Jack and the remaining members of the task force, Rick feared. Ropeless is one of my favorite tracks. Dark Million's trip is known as Dark Star. He was brainwashed by Black Shadow, and this was a homage to the Dark Star Dragons in Mutant League football. And, of course, his uniform is similar to Shao Kahn without the cape. Chase's On will be played during the chase, as well as the White Land theme for that. Promised Land, blah, 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 blah. So far, I think this is one of my favorite laps in this fic. I was looking forward to have Rick reunited with Tinsel, as well as have some insight from Haruka's kindred spirit. I think the relationship is really starting to bud here. I figured it was a cool idea combining the parts from the Dragonbird and Ghost. Which, if you've seen Rex Day Off, you would know. So Jack is next. Will Tinsel, Rick, and Leon succeed, or crash and burn? So there you have it, F-Zero fans. And this is the Ecron Writers signing out. Sorry it took so long, but hey, I had a lot of information to cover. So ciao, everyone. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, Tinsel Steelus managed to save Rick Wheeler from Dark Million's thrall, and he is no longer working for the enemy. Instead, he is permanently working for the Mobile Task Force, which, ironically, has about 2 members left, including him and Tinsel. And they just found out that Jack Levin is in the next race in Aeropolis, specifically the Dragon Slopes. So without further delay, let's get on with the show. Alright, lap 8. Rick has reunited with Tinsel and is no longer a part of Dark Million. They go on a salvage mission to save both Jack and Lucy. Will the captors have the same fate in the next 2 courses? On their way to the Dragon Slopes, Rick told Tinsel of Jack being the Death Reaper for Michael Chain, a masked assassin whose mission was to destroy other gangs so the Bloody Chain would be the most dominant in Mute City, and later the whole universe. However, he saw his best friend deal with his past during that street race on an unfinished bridge. It ended in a draw, and Rick was able to distract Baba. As the two were fighting it out, they both held on to the unstable infrastructure. Thankfully, he and Jody were there to save his life while Michael Chain was taken in. I hope this time it's for good, Rick. Man, am I getting tired of this guy. And as you can see, there's a flashback scene of Tinsel involving her assault on the Bloody Chain when they met Truman. If you guys remember the anime in episode 7, Michael Chain's Trap, then you would know who Truman is. But there's a little twist to this. For you see, since it was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Crossover, you would see this in Cold as Ice, in the fic Cold as Ice. Tinsel actually used her new dual disc with Karibo and Multiply, which was an idea I got from the filler episode of the virtual world in which Kaiba was imprisoned in. Very nice filler, I gotta say. So, she stood up to Michael Chain and Truman. She used Karibo to blow up the wild boars. I don't feel like reading this, but just read it yourself if you want, and it's also part of Cold as Ice, which is a one-shot. Bang, bang, boom! So, reinforcements arrived. And if you also remember the anime episode involving Michael Chain and Jack Levin as the Death Reaper, then there's a little twist to that. Michael escaped from prison wanting the Death Reaper to return. Fortunately, Jack realized what was most important for having friends in the task force and dealing with their troubled past together, just like Rick and Tinsel. He thought that Jack could have a similar fashion since he was the Death Reaper. Don't worry, 3 against 1 on Aeropolis? I'm sure the odds are in our favor. You must never underestimate your enemies, Tinsel. It's highly unlikely that the gang had ties with Dark Million. That was before Baba. Mike escaped from prison and he was on the hunt for Jack. And under the right conditions, he can be a very aggressive contender. Before they got to their destination, Tinsel was looking over the schematics on the Astro Robin in order to familiarize herself with the enemy. According to Clank, Jack's contraption had a high acceleration and amazing handling, decent body strength, but pretty slow. I actually came up with this nickname known as the Hovering Tortoise. So slow. Of course, Rick had a point on not misjudging her opponent, and being he's always a cocky pilot who isn't afraid to take any risks, they were in for quite a challenge. I think I might leave Jack to you, Rick. You seem to know him better than us. The Astro Robin could be too much if not for your Dragon Bird. I'll do my best. Just make sure you and Leon stay sharp. Gotcha. Eventually, the duo reached the Serpentine Circuit, although it was hard to find, resulting them to have some delays, and they had only minutes to prepare themselves before the race. They hadn't seen Jack nor the Astro Robin, though Leon and his Space Angler were already waiting within the starting line. I thought you two would never show up. Sorry we're a little tardy to the party, Leon. Took us a while to find this place. Looking around then to the pilots, Leon commented, "This must be some new stuff to ya." They both nodded, although Tinsel had some slight experience at the multiplex during the Ruby League. She took all three of them after her missions with Falcon were done. Unfortunately, though she gave her best, she wasn't skilled enough to participate in the legendary Diamond Cup. Didn't bother her too much, though. This one has some guardrails This one has some guardrails lacking, so prepare yourselves. What's your strategy? Rick suggested that Tinsel and Leon should deal with the rival racers while he goes on the lookout for Jack. He figured he'll have a better chance since his Dragon Bird is strong enough if the Robin should get reckless. Not to mention the awesome speed, which would allow him to catch up easily, as well as its grip. The machine may be slow, but Jack is often a deceiver. He's certain he'll cause a lot of chaos, though he's nervous he could get ahead of himself and fall off. The trio were, however, a bit relieved, as Jack would be the only main enemy thus far. They had to be extra cautious since they noticed the Robin is further in front, while the others were in the midsection. As Rick saw it, some repressed memory came back to him. He was at Black Shadow's base, gazing at Jack's craft with Miss Killer close to his side. The tank hadn't released his best friend rival yet, though he did see the makeover that he and his machine had. Jack had his right eye covered by red. Basically, he looks just like the Death Reaper, but a small, slight twist to his design. And the and the Astro Robin had a makeover, which is kind of similar to the flashes at Lightning. Reaping Robin. Wait, what was that? He faced him with an anxious expression. Jack Levin had the same makeover I had, both to himself and his machine. I remembered it being called the Reaping Robin. No doubt they're using this reference to him being the Death Reaper. Jack may really be out for blood. His boost stat may have increased as well. But how would Dark Million know all this? Baba must have known. He probably got the word out to Black Shadow during that duel. This was before he was wiped out in that Big Blue race, remember? Oh yeah. Good thing we have our own personal informant. All pilots, return to your vehicles. The race will begin very shortly. I repeat, all pilots, return to your vehicles. Well, I guess we better skedaddle. I hope you know what you're doing, Rick. We cannot lose him. He didn't feel so confident, and he's not the type of person making a plan either. He hoped his own judgment wouldn't fail him. If anything should happen to Jack, he'd never forgive himself. Sensing his angst, the coyote whimpered. It's 3 against 1. Don't let your concerns get in your way. We could win this and get Jack back. Godspeed to both of you. Tinsel and Leon did a high five, and they hurried to their cruisers. Rick was more sluggish as his mind was clouding with uncertainty. It was known as the Dragon Slopes because of the incredibly sharp curves, followed by the speed plates before the numerous ledges pilots can grasp. There were 3 layers, top, middle, and bottom. The lowest layer was the fastest of them all, and they must be widely aware of the missing guardrails along the way. At times, the course was wide, then narrow, then it expanded and shrunk on inopportune moments, and those lanes contained several speed-ups, causing Rick, Tinsel, and Leon to use extreme caution and not lose Jack to the 30,000-foot drop. They must not be distracted by the endless hordes of crafts buzzing above the course, not even the highway covered in a translucent bridge overhead. There were a couple of pit areas, though they were attached to the sides of the track. Thankfully, there were some walls, but where there was ice and dirt was definitely the worst part. Nevertheless, it didn't make Jack falter. He went on a killing spree, wiping out any pilot he saw. His speed may have enhanced, but his maneuvering and devastating defense made him a wrecking machine. Under Black Shadow's control, he was deadly. Some pilots were knocked off course thanks to the Reaping Robin, though they used their ejection seats and parachutes before their cars became space dust. The rumors were true. He was working for Dark Million. As the Death Reaper's name implied, the Big Bad wanted to use him to eliminate all competitors that stood between him and his domineering victory. He's gonna kill all the pilots! Not if I can help it. That's Black Shadow, all right. He's so hell-bent on winning and exterminating the competition. You have to stop him. I'll take the lead and put an end to this. You two can finish the race. Don't let him spot you. Be careful, Rick. He just saw him demolish another one, only this one crashed into a distant skyscraper which regenerated in a matter of seconds. Despite the outstanding spectacle, he still had a job to do. He banged into the robin's tail just to give him some attention. Wheeler. You want a piece of me, Jack? After what you did to those pilots? Easy, Ricky. I was just following orders from Black Shadow is all. You should join him too, you know, as our friends are waiting for you, especially your girlfriend. He tried to intimidate him, but Rick was just steaming up. No way, Jack. I've been down this road before, and I'm never going back. Won't let you destroy every pilot on the circuit. You're just as insane as Zoda is. Space grew sour at the realization that Rick was betraying his old friend and both associations. Then allow me to vanquish you instead. See you later, filthy traitor! He was indeed a pushover as he attempted to force Rick off the edge. The dragon bird just barely hung in there as it was losing its footing. Fortunately, in mere seconds, it gained some ground which caused it to wobble, as well as getting a speed boost. From the rear, Leon and Tinsel saw the melee continue. It's Jack! I gotta stop him! Being she was the fastest and disobeying Rick's orders, Tinsel caught up and kept ramming into him, but her comet was weak. So as she was forced away, Rick stepped in, and she boosted past their clashing elites. Jack went on the pursuit, not allowing her nor Rick to win, but Leon was just catching up. Don't worry about her, Rick. I got him in my sights. Space Angler hammered into him, but he was also too light. Lastly was Rick, who gave it everything his machine could muster, and Jack fell down the course where there wasn't a guardrail. Talk about karma. He just sank like a stone since it was heavier than the others. Ah! One down! Oh no! Jack! Rick immediately stopped on the track, scared that his perished pal might have fallen from the slopes. He wanted his comrades to win the race. Well, he checks on him. Go to him! Don't forget the syringe! He met him at the wreckage in a lower portion, but the rocker was unconscious. Paramedics arrived when the race ended. Rick gave them Dr. Stewart's formula. The syringe. Did Tinsel give this to you? Then this must belong to Rodney. We'll take him in right away. Rick only watched as they loaded in Jack on a stretcher and towed away the Robin. At Rodney's hospital, he eventually came to. He immediately saw Tinsel and recognized her from the last race. Hey, what were you doing wrecking my machine? Ow. His arm gave way. He was in multiple bandages and the injured limb was in a sling. Take it easy, man. You just got out of the wreckage. Although he seemed to be back to his normal, egotistical self again. By the way, the Space Angler won while I came in second. Leon, Rick, and I wanted to make sure you didn't get into any more trouble. Trouble? What kind of trouble? About what happened, Jack. You really don't remember anything? Not really. Wheeler! They did a manly hug as they reunited. I thought I'd never see that bugger again. It's great to see you too, as your energetic, overconfident, and hot-headed old self. Hot-headed? Well, you're one to talk trying to destroy me. Rick, however, was more serious. She was about to make a rebuttal until he asked what he could remember these last several weeks. Jack recalled there was something sharp on the back of his neck. Before that, he said he was meeting some very sexy ladies. They gave him a stern look. Aside from that, I can't seem to remember very much, other than looking for your sorry hide, Wheeler. By the way, where were you anyway? Wait till Jody hears about this. She has turned over, Jack. She's with Black Shadow. So are the others. We only found you so far. They're still in Dark Star. What? How could that be? I could only recollect ourselves being ambushed by those thugs. Thanks to you and Rick, the rumors have turned out to be true. First Rick, then Jack. She was certain Dark Million won't be holding back. Still, we're glad to have you at our side, Jack. Will you race with us? Sure thing, Ricky. I'll get out of these casts in no time. All right, we could sure use your help. See you later. Before she walked away, he grabbed her lightly by the arm. Tinsel? We seem to be bonding, aren't we, mate? Only professionally. That doesn't mean you're going to get all mushy on me, are ya? Course not. Yep, Jack was back. Rick and Tinsel headed back to their machines. They were so drained as they both took a deep sigh on a nearby park bench. 1 down, 6 more to go. She mentally counted the remaining missing members. They both knew that from this race onward the task force won't show any mercy. Rick was right. Clank informed the duo that the Astro Robin might have just a paint job. He'll return it to Team Lightning Bolt where it'll be as good as new, though it'll cost him. Luckily, Leon would pay for it thanks to some of his earnings. This was actually his first ever victory. Tinsel couldn't be more proud of that pooch. While Jack was healing, Rick and Tinsel met an unexpected guest. He was around 15 feet tall, skinny, and was an alien with scaly skin. Well, basically it's the Commissioner, but you'll only see him a few times in the anime. Rick Wheeler? Yeah, that's me. I've realized you hadn't crossed the finish line at the end of the race. I see you went after Jack instead. Since you never placed in Europolis, this could result in a disqualification. Oh no! How could they possibly compete if Rick shouldn't race anymore? However, since you were able to stop Jack from destroying the other pilots, there were no casualties. Thus, you would still be eligible for the next competition. Thanks, Commissioner. Rick, you and Tinsel are the last of the mobile task force. It's crucial that we should stop Dark Million from gaining the profits. You two must find the rest of the group and bring them home safely. Our lives depend on it. That's your mission for both of you. Understood? Yes, sir. He gave her a handshake. Great to finally meet you, Tinsel. Seems you're not much of a novice after all. Keep up the good work. You got it. A short time later, Rick, Tinsel, and Drac participated in another Grand Prix course. Leon was one of the spectators watching from the stands. He really wanted to see the trio succeed and reverse Dark Million's effect over another particular member of the team, while Jack was still stuck in his body casts. Their opponents identified by Clank were Lucy as well as the most nefarious toadies Black Shadow ever conceived, Blood Falcon, who was undoubtedly the most lethal foe they'd faced, and the Elegance Liberty, or rather the Pallid Pony, was a paperweight by comparison. According to the info, just before the competition, the altered vehicle had a phenomenal grip and a formidable body. The only change was her boost stat, which was actually higher than the Astro Robin's by just 1 level. The exterior was also completely different, as the Pallid Pony had an appearance as white as an apparition with the ashen plates. It was skinnier and more lightweight, hence the speed improvement and sharp handling. With Tinsel leading the pack during the final lap, she was the first to see the newbie's striking uniform. She wore black shoulder pads with a Blanche outfit. Her hair was also as dark as her tainted soul, plus heavy opaque lipstick and eyeshadow was smeared causing her to have a more gothic approach. The enemy machine, the Bloodhawk, or otherwise known as the Hellhawk, which preferably I like better, was also analyzed. Blah blah, the BS group, housing underground races during suspension. I'm sure you guys already know from X and GX. Although, I wish GX was never a copy-paste from X, as you would notice in the profiles. Took me several years to figure that out. The Silver Comets kept ramming into the Pallid Pony, and they were on a pushing match to see who was stronger. "Let's hope your luck will run out, Lucy." They had a tough battle as the Bloodhawk kept gaining on them, smashed into her without any relent, and Lucy just glared and sped off. "Ah! The Hellhawk is so damn strong!" "Hang on!" "Tinsel, turn against the Bloodhawk as much as you can." She blushed as he kept turning left. Rick did the opposite, not allowing the hawk to attack nor boost. However, he managed to make a few minimal nudges to escape. Wait for it. Wait for it. Now! As the detective gave the signal, they both accelerated, leaving Blood vulnerable. He actually fastened and steered so much that he fell off the course and obliterated right after the scrimmage. Yahoo! We did it! But Lucy... She's too fast. I'm falling behind. Damn, I can't catch up. We're nearing the finish line now. Leave that to me. Drac, I need your help dealing with Lucy. On my way! Blah, blah, blah. They had the highest acceleration. It was just enough, though, they had to watch their stamina as they both had a C rank. Drac distracted Lucy with a crash, though she was better as she bashed him. Since he had bad handling, he slipped away and lagged behind, but Tinsel finished the job as he caught her off guard with a side attack, making her spin out and collide with the other fellow contenders. They raced each other before they crossed the finish line. Rick was first, Tinsel second, and Drac third. As usual, the colossal creature was bummed out. An amazing comeback from Rick Wheeler! This has been a long time since we've seen him achieve victory on the F-Zero circuit, and the rookie Tinsel Steelers isn't too far behind. The mighty Typhoon had difficult struggle with the Pallid Pony, yet Drac managed to end up taking the bronze position. What a great team effort for the awesome trio! Hey, don't feel bad. There's always next time. Yeah, besides, this is our victory. We won this together. We wouldn't have done it without you. We really appreciate your help for keeping Lucy busy. He gave a slight smile to the two humans. And so she, and Rick all raised the trophy. Just before the medics towed the injured pilot and her machine away, Tinsel applied the syringe when they got to the demolition while Rick showed her a vein in the neck. When she was under, the team got her old uniform, and Rodney and his assistants gave Lucy back her natural look. Plank said that he'd easily restore the Pallid Pony to its original settings as the Elegance livery. I actually like that idea because it, represents Statue of Liberty. Jack? Rick? Tinsel? Leon! She beamed as she saw him panting heavily. The moment she said his name, he licked her happily and his tail was wagging rapidly. He was the most grateful to see her as her normal self again, no longer hiding his great feelings of affection for her. Hey! Whose partner are you anyway? He immediately returned to Lucy, who was laughing the whole way. It's only natural, Tinsel. Besides, Leon hasn't seen Lucy over the past few months. He mentioned he first saw him as a busboy at the Falcon House, and he somehow had a crush on Lucy. He admitted once that he was afraid to show it, until now. Looks like you got yourself a fanboy, don't you, Lucy? Oh, Jack, you're too much. Hey, what happened to you? Her friends described the last race in Aeropolis. She was alarmed that Dark Million was able to take advantage over the task force. That means Clash is there too. We gotta help them. Easy, Lucy. Easy, Lucy. You just woke up. We'll see what we can do. We've already gotten this far. You just concentrate on resting for a while, champ. Leave this up to us. Feels like such a long time since we were last together, Rick. I'm so glad that we finally are together again. Indeed it has. Don't worry, Princess. I'll be back in action. You'll see. With a smile she counted on them, and Leon gave her another smooch before they left. Back at headquarters, Rick mentioned Tinsel seeing Blood Falcon while saving Jody from an abandoned warehouse in Port Town. Recently, when the task force split due to a misunderstanding as he shapeshifted to each member, spreading lies and chaos, he informed her that they only managed to wipe out one of the clones. One? Are you saying there are more Blood Falcon clones? He remembered while he was in Darkstar there was a secret lab, but he never entered it. It's likely Stewart has. There was a restricted area just next to the main chamber with all those toxic tanks. I swear it. I'll destroy that laboratory as soon as we save him. There could be thousands of them roaming the galaxy. It's unlikely Black Shadow would use them. Unless if there's a race involved. They're expendable. I hope Clank and Leon can help track them down. I'm certain Dr. Clash and EAD would reconstruct many Hellhawks. But could it be from the skull? Or Dr. Stewart? Only time can tell, which was something she and Rick thought they don't have much of. So, you just heard Cinnabaz. I'm gonna take a gamble and pick a track from the original Top Gear. In my eyes, I find this game to be incredibly annoying with the numerous pit stops where you constantly have to refuel, as well as use about 3 ineffective nitros. The AI just rubber bands so much. Anyway, my point is, I decided to go with track 4, or as I call it, San Francisco track, as this song first plays here in the second course. And, well, it kind of reminds me of Rick again. I'm a huge fangirl of Rick Wheeler, in case you can't tell. Alright, scenario for flashback, which if you would see cold as ice, you would know. Never had the chance to play the Diamond Cup until I found out from Ephraim's LP, and I gotta say, it is one of the best. He actually used Don Genie's Fat Shark. No joke. I recommend you should check it out. Little did I know that Blood Falcon was introduced in X as an unlockable character for the captain's alternate outfit. I thought for the longest time he wasn't introduced until GX, but I guess it makes sense because of the huge accident. And I realized that the course was never mentioned if Pico was the rumor, because in X Cup the courses are randomized. No wonder Smash Bros. Got the idea to incorporate Falcon and give him the clone's appearance, since it was released 1 year later! Damn! It's just so interesting that the Elegance Liberty is remarkably similar to the Astro Robin, albeit has a better speed boost. Actually, the Pallid Pony was inspiration from Sleepy Hollow, specifically the Horseman of Death, because of its placid look. So, it almost looks similar to a Poltergeist, and it's almost like a mix between the Death Reaper and Getsis from Pokemon Black and White. That's where I got the inspiration from. So, Clash will be up next, and are the rumors true about Dark Million producing multiple clones of Blood Falcon? Good luck, Task Force. So that's it. That's lap 8 for you. Next time, we go up against Dr. Clash, and hopefully they will get rid of all those clones of Blood Falcon. Until then, this is Tinsel, this is Econ Rider signing out. And I leave you with this song. This should be like Rick's theme. Take care, guys. God damn! I love that song. In case you don't know, this is actually the course in Chapter 8 featuring Deathborn in GX's story mode. God, I only wish this course was made for Grand Prix mode. I would really love that. Anyways, welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, our heroes have managed to rescue Jack and Lucy from Dark Million's thrall. So, we just found out that Dr. Clash is actually going to be in the next F-Zero race. So, our heroes managed to press on. And will they hopefully vanquish all the clones made by Blood Falcon? Whether it be made by the Skull or Dr. Stewart or even Clash himself, which I'm sure is responsible for making the enhancements of the machines. So, with all that said, let's get going. Alright, lap 9. Before I forget, I want to make a quick mention to the awesome discovery I found recently. There's actually the intro. Actually, you found out already. So let's get this going. So Rick, Tinsel, and her allies killed 2 birds with 1 stone. They managed to reunite with Jack and Lucy in 2 consecutive races. With the duo as official members of the task force again, the pilots come across another former ally. Perhaps a tragic end. By the next race, it was just enough time for Jack and Lucy to leave the hospital. They were so enamored they just returned home since God knows when. The former rocker was glad to be back in his messy room while Lucy was thankful to be in hers, complete with makeup, some small tools, and fan memorabilia. Even Rick and Tinsel were also easing up a little now that their family is in the process of unity. Once they were settled, Lucy gave them the lowdown. I feared that Dr. Clash would be there. I can't be in the next race. I just can't race against him. He's too important to me. Please bring back Dr. Clash in one piece. Don't worry, Lucy. We will. We will. Of course, we must be careful since the Crazy Bear has high body strength and boost. Right, damn scrolling. I don't like this. Clash is an expert when it comes to machinery. All 4 of the officers knew from the get-go that he would make some modified cars, soldiers, and major weapons for Black Shadow. They were certain he made the alterations on the Elegance Liberty and the Astro Robber, though he wasn't the one who created the Darkstar Dragon, not to Rick's knowledge. Definitely needs some help from the outside. When he heard that a certain engineer would participate, Beastman decided to volunteer as returning a favor for redesigning the Hyperspeeder. It was a fighter craft during an interplanetary war in White. Back when he's in the ripe age of 48, Dr. Clash was interested in fulfilling his goal on being an F-Zero pilot, just like his own. Ever since the X Grand Prix, Beastman couldn't be any happier, except maybe actually win a few of them. After receiving the call of duty, sure thing, Tinsel. I owe Dr. Clash a lot. It's been years since I've seen the old-timer. Jack, Tinsel, and Rick raced against him as Leon and Beastman took the rear. The Crazy Bear was too strong for most of the racers to handle as he was so damn reckless on the track, demolishing anyone he saw. They were nervous they'd be the next bunch of victims in his wrathful wake. It was quite obvious since he was one of Dark Million's most promising mechanics. His machine was a total brute on the course, as Clash had a nearly perfect contraption with an incredibly strong body, a decent boost but bad handling, almost like the Hellhawk they faced earlier, except its first 2 stats were reversed. You know, Abe. The Dragonbird was indeed the first to catch up, fighting the dark impulses as best as he could when he saw him. Clash's eyes were widening and dwindling rapidly. Seeing him struggling, Rick kept speaking to him, encouraging him to resist the urges just as he did after the incident in Whiteland. Clash rammed into him, but he was unable to brake just in time. The pilots were amazed at how he avoided Clash's crash. Not wanting to provoke him further, Rick spoke again. Clash! It's me, Rick! Black Shadow is infecting your mind! You have to strike back! With your genius mind, you're the only one who can do this. Don't let him squander it. Remember us, and fight the darkness from within. Through the intense agony and intrusive voices, he implored only him that he must win and first, otherwise his machine would explode. If it would, everyone near him would be destroyed. It will affect the whole track. He confessed that he designed the mechanism himself and attached it to his own machine. But why? Why did you do this to yourself? For a time the tech genius composed himself and told Rick in his despair he planted the device on it. He also trapped himself inside the cockpit as he entered the next race. He had no means on escaping. He knew he was far from saving. He never wanted the syringe since he felt he's too far gone. He was very grateful he finally achieved his lifelong dream as an F-Zero pilot, as well as joining the Mobile Task Force. With enough mind power, he was able to have one final flashback to his early years. His name is Theodore Clash, and I'm sure you would find it in the F-Zero wiki, F-Zero profiles. He always called himself as a supertonic geekoid, whatever that is. He was well known as not just an engineer, but also an atomic scientist and an inventor, thus making him a crucial asset to the task force and recently Dark Million. He's an old fan of old-time rock and roll, made the Silver Comet and the Hyperspeeder. Yes, blah 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 blah. He lost against Captain Falcon and Tinsel Steelus, but the rest was history. On the final lap, his willpower continued to waver as the past left him wounded. He had so much to lose, and still the toxins persisted, allowing him to say that Rick must knock him off before the bear blows up. He hoped that Lucy will take his place as an inspiring engineer for the Federation and work with Clank. I must let you go in first. You can't throw your prosperous life away like this. Rick, you have to trust me. Ugh. The 55-year-old held his throbbing head with his human arms, while the mechanical limbs steered, his mind deteriorating in the process. The crazy bear was grinding the side of the course, creating sparks. Clash! It's better this way, unless you are willing to end your life. You are our last hope. I'm counting on you. The galaxy's fate is in your hands, not mine. I'd rather sacrifice myself than lose anyone else, as I did so with Haruka. I admire your valiance, kid. At least that hasn't changed a bit. Meanwhile, Jack and Tinsel wondered why the dragon bird wasn't making a move against the crazy bear. Why isn't Wheeler doing anything? Quit screwing around. Rick, what is going on? As he momentarily kept himself together, he demanded, Tinsel, Jack, you must be able to pass us while I can still deal with Clash. Get as far away as you can. Leon, Beastman, stay far behind me. We'll finish this race. All right, but what the hell is he trying to do? Rick teared up as he saw the detonator flashing. The geeky geezer wasn't fooling around. This was definitely not a prank. Clash begged him to do the unthinkable and the inevitable. Rick, what are you waiting for? Do it. Save me. Now! After a few moments, which almost stretched into an eternity. Goodbye, Clash! He reluctantly used a sight attack and sent him falling. There was a flash and a massive blast shook the course. Jack and Tinsel looked behind them in horror. Wheeler. It can't be! Leon and Beastman spoke over the comm, wondering if they were all right. Tinsel, Jack, can you guys hear me? Are you okay? Do you copy? Yeah. But Rick... Then there was a spark among the thick smoke as the dragon bird emerged. He whizzed between them and the others caught up, wondering who made the explosion. Rick is here! That means... Clash? Cannot. Wheeler, Wait! He was in first, but he slowed after he crossed the finish line. He parked at the side of the track and was very upset. Damn it! Why? Why did you have to die? Jack and Tinsel rushed to the scene. Without saying a word, they knew. Leon and Beastman arrived soon after. It was Dr. Clash, wasn't it? The engineer was gone. Tinsel just couldn't help but cry. Jack was the only one strong enough to acknowledge. Such a deep sacrifice. It's almost inhuman. They escorted Jack, Rick, and Tinsel back to base, never wanting to share their victory. Meanwhile, tear-filled Lucy was watching from the headquarters, and they broke the news to her as the trio arrived minutes later. She was cradled by Jack, while Rick couldn't stand her agony on top of his own and his comrades. He left without a sound, and Tinsel followed suit. It was as if they were all weighed down by layers of cement. Alone, just before she walked up to him, Rick kept contradicting himself. Never should have won and pushed Class to his demise. This proves that Jody was right after all. I am a glory hog. If I hadn't left the task force in danger and let myself be controlled by Black Shadow, none of this would have happened. I wish I could go back in time and prevent everything if given the chance. It wasn't your fault, Rick. You've made a choice. It was either Clash or all of us caught in the crossfire. You said so yourself that Clash was fighting, that he was too far gone. He used his last ounce of strength to warn you this was coming. He wanted to sacrifice himself for us, because he didn't want us killed along with him. Should have let him win that race. And get away with it? He knew this was happening, and he was aware of all of it. So he did what he did. Plus, we all escaped thanks to you. Clash saved you. He saved us all from that horrible fate. Rick, don't blame yourself for this. Stop with your survivor's guilt. There was nothing we could have done otherwise. It would have been far worse. They were later in a brief warm embrace. During their small funeral, as they were mourning, Dr. Theodore Clash's smiling picture in a frame was at the middle of the counter. He was surrounded by tools and gadgets he made, along with his numerous plaques and awards. The task force band was located in front. There were some leftover flowers surrounding the place setting. Rick was in the center, while Jack was to the left of him, followed by Lucy, and Tinsel was on the right. We must avenge him and honor his loss. They nodded in confirmation and began to hold hands as they reflected. They would miss him, as he always modified their machines, and the fact that he created this Dragonbird, the Hyperspeeder, the Silver Comet. Dang errors. Ugh. Several hours had passed. Rick eventually found Tinsel inside of the Dimlet Task Force garage. Tinsel? Are you alright? I think so. I sure am gonna miss him. Always. Wonder how we'll manage without him. He sat beside her and wasn't certain either, but he had some hope for Lucy, Clank, and some of the friends she found. She was still upset, but somehow he knew that. Rick, we need to leave. Just the two of us. We can't stay here mourning like this. Where should we go? I need to show you someplace. I'm sure you'll find out when we get there. I hope I will get there in time. In the Silver Comet, both Rick and Tinsel went through a warp gate taking them to a distant place in Port Town. It was known as the largest and most advanced space harbor and interstellar trading facility. It was surrounded by mountains, and there were some enormous skyscrapers, almost as tall as those in Aeropolis. There were also some pyramid-shaped office buildings and immense rod construction robots operating on two separate buildings. Despite the congestion, Tinsel took her comet to a desolated area. Everything was tranquil and dark, so was the sky. The only lights they saw were nothing more than the twinkling stars above. This is the place? It's Port Town, but I can hardly see anything. Just wait. You'll see soon enough. He saw some distant lights from the city flicker on. Suddenly the track began to illuminate as the guardrails lit up. He noticed they were smack dab in the middle of a racetrack. Why are we here? Aren't you worried some racer might crash into us? No, it's highly unlikely. You see, this track was for the Grand Prix 13 years ago. After that, it was closed down. Sometimes when I need a place to unwind, I go here and gaze at its wondrous glory. I can see why. This course must have been nostalgic to you. Look up. She pointed at the sky, which was covered in so many stars that there were too many to count. Amazingly, they could see every single one without straining their eyes, as there was no light pollution, like the cluttered streets below. Wow. Tinsel, do you mind if you... Oh, certainly. She unlocked the door, and both of the pilots climbed out, sat on the roof, and their eyes adjusted to its magnificence. Crisp air was also a nice touch. Everything's better up here. Indeed. This is the only place where it's peaceful and quiet with little to no traffic, no light or air pollution. We're up really high. No one can sneak up on us. Too bad I couldn't make it in time for the sunset, though. This was definitely a place to relax. It kind of reminded him of his own time in New York, all the buildings glistening in the distance. You know, this is where Captain Falcon works, right? I know, but I always come here for this sight alone. I cannot recall exactly. I don't know if this was a dream or not, but I've seen you here, staring up the sky. Never realized how important this place was until just now. Thank you for showing me, Tinsel. He gave a small grin, so did she. His hands moved into her shoulders, inviting her close to him. She leaned in and Rick unwrapped her in his warm arms. He continued to caress her, and she whispered, I'm glad you came. I don't want you to leave us again. I'm so worried. I know. There's nowhere else I'd want to be at this moment, but here, safe with you. He wouldn't want it any other way. Now that he knew that Luke and Clash were watching over him, he too felt secure and calm as well. Soon enough, they were sound asleep together, inside the comet. Day broke, and from a large boom, Rick awakened first. He rubbed sand away from his eyes as he sat up. He eventually yawned and stretched out his weary muscles. By the time he heard the impact again, he went on alert. He unlocked the comet, looked back, and Tinsel barely even noticed. He took out and loaded his Glock as he scouted the perimeter. His instincts told him that Darkmelian and Risotto was up to something here. He wandered around the track, seeing nothing except a few disparate lane mounds and magnets. We're up really high. No one can sneak up on us. He wasn't convinced. He then saw one of the ginormous robots located at the top of some tall building, like a corporation perhaps. He looked down from the track, and to his surprise, it was being infiltrated by death soldiers. What's happening? It's Black Shadow. Captain Falcon! He's here. and he's sabotaging one of the mega corporations. They're the heart of Port Town. He did not like the sound of that. Still, Falcon continued. There are many soldiers this time, and I don't think the special forces would hold them off. They seem to be outnumbered and overmatched. Shouldn't we help them? No, it's far too risky. We must evacuate this planet and regroup where it's safer before they catch on to us. Hurry! Follow me! Rick ran after him, then he hesitated. Tinsel! He went the opposite direction, heading back to the Comet. Meanwhile, she shut herself up as she heard some gunfire and shouting below. She noticed she was the only one in her vehicle. Rick? Rick? Where are you? Rick? Rick, are you there? I'm in my Comet. Do you copy? Rick, if you can hear me, please respond. I believe I can answer that, my pretty. Before she had one, she looked up and saw Zoda over her. He silenced her in a moment's pace. The detective returned, following the signal, only to find her vehicle was empty. Tinsel. Tinsel! I have to find her. Sorry, Falcon. He started up the ignition. Thankfully, the key was in her seat. He saw a familiar, dark-looking spacecraft docked just a few feet from the building described. He wondered if Tinsel was being held captive there. Seeing this was tricky, he backed up a few feet away and remembered the ice jet she occasionally uses. He pressed down the button on the handle. The beam shot out and froze a portion of the titanium wall in contact. He rammed in and then ventured through the halls. An alarm was off and he kept bashing through multiple Death soldiers attempting to shoot it. When he was clear, he began to slow to a tread. As he neared the top, he heard an echo ricochet off the walls. He realized it was Tinsel's cries. From his point of view, she was resisting to drink the black vial that once brainwashed her. A familiar face was there, along with a few cronies. That's Zoda! He drew his Glock and waited. He saw her get slapped across the face and the canister was being forced to her mouth. Then she had her hair yanked back as the maniac demanded her to drink it. She managed to see Rick despite the pain. He made some charades, but she barely made them out. The nozzle was dumped as her head was lifted. Then some of the toxins poured into her throat. The residue was leaking from her lips. Don't swallow it! Zoda kept forcing her chin up, then her head drooped. There now. Isn't it easier to just do what we tell you, instead of just harming you and your friends? Now, answer me. Who do you serve? I must obey Zoda. Zoda's enemies! With striking exact precision, Rick was able to shoot each of the soldiers. Those that were standing rushed to him, and he fought them off seamlessly. Only his nemesis was left. Surrender now, Zoda! Wheeler! What a surprise! I suppose the lousy traitor hasn't slipped through our hands then. Now, drop it before I blow her brains out! Rick was petrified. Drop your weapon, Wheeler! Luckily, her knees were free, so she kicked him hard, and he held his leg in agony, dropping his Glock. Rick discarded his own. I've been waiting forever for this. Let's settle it, once and for all. Mani Umano. I can't wait another century and a half to kill you, Wheeler. I'll remedy the error I've made on that night. You are mine! Rick raised his hands as Zoda ran to him. He blocked the psychopath's blow and retaliated with a punch. It connected and Zoda backed away a few steps, yet still he was on the warpath. Rick avoided some of his blows until he was hit by his other fist unexpectedly. He was tackled to the ground and he rolled for a few seconds until Rick was able to kick him off. During the melee, Tinsel cautiously headed out, only to return with the comet. She was hoping she'd get an easy target. It got more intense and they both wore themselves out after 5 minutes trying to beat the piss and vinegar out of each other, especially Rick, who was panting profusely. As soon as his eyes rolled to the side, Zoda managed to retrieve and aim his Glock and Rick's right at him after he made a quick dive and roll. Isn't this like deja vu, Wheeler? Black Shadow would thank me royally once I am finished with you. You should never have gotten out of Cold Sleep alive, and let your hot-blooded hatred drive you astray. I shall now rectify that mistake quickly! He pointed the guns to his skull. Rick was as cold and unmoving like a real statue. His time to die was here, by this insane monster. Allow me what I should have done to you 150 years ago! Volley of instantaneous freezing ice shot out from the jets of the comet. As soon as his whole body was rock solid, she declared, "It's time for you to go back to Cold Sleep. Permanently! Now, Rick! Finish him!" He did as he stood and carried the heavy alien popsicle, stopping by a pit. Looking at his fearful, gaping mouth, he retorted, "Now look who's afraid and on the verge of death. You definitely deserve this for all the pain and suffering to me and everyone I held dear. Zoda, this 150-year nightmare ends now!" The body just shattered as it hit toward the bottom of the abyss. Still, he was in total shock from the adrenaline as he gazed. I did it. I beat Zoda. No! This startled him. Then he saw her close behind. We did it. Haruka can finally rest now. Not yet. Still have Black Shadow and Luna Rider to deal with. She held his hands. Don't let her intimidate you, whatever you do. I won't. Those were the same words Haruka said to him while he was under anesthesia. Little did Tinsel know. Suddenly sawdust rained on her from above, and they felt a murmur. Then huge chunks of debris started to fall. They noticed the ship was on self-destruct mode. Let's go! We gotta get out of here! Come on! He immediately unlocked it, and she was the first to jump into the cockpit. Then he went to the back seat just before it was locked. Step on it! She ignited after it did a 360. The silver comet raced within the halls, but a wall of fire was gaining on them. In her perspective, Tinsel thought it was a tsunami made of flames. Then she accelerated as much as her machine could muster. I got your back! Still, the onslaught was on her tails, and the comet can't hold up forever, especially when it crashes into walls and mines. The alarm sounded as more energy was sacrificed to speed it up. Through the radar, the chase was more rampant as the sight darkened. They were just mere inches from it. It's closing on us! Rick volunteered to take the wheel as it took more abuse. He handled it better than she did, but it still wasn't enough. Rick didn't give up as he made one last acceleration before they hit a few speed boosts. Tinsel, we've hit a ramp! Keep your head down! With his head down, Rick held onto the handle which raised the comet's nose. Despite the lighter descent, they slammed onto the unforgiving terrain and collided in a nearby rocky dune. The ship exploded, and Tinsel eventually caught her breath. She shook the unconscious Rick awake, assuring him they went out alive. By the time his head was clear enough, he still took the wheel and started up the comet. Fortunately, it didn't. None of the lights turned on, and the comm was shot. Didn't even leave a slight murmur when he turned the ignition. From all the damage it endured, they were dead somewhere in the mountainous trail. The energy was completely depleted. They were surprised it never blew up on impact. I'm afraid we're stuck here. I would like to call in the Dragon Bird, but we're so far away from Mute City. How are we supposed to get help? Port Town is in total chaos. It's not safe here. Then we have no choice. We're walking from here. We need to get someone to at least give your comet a jump, or perhaps escort us back. She couldn't believe what she'd done, leaving her and Rick stranded on an unknown location without any assistance, as the criminals were taking control in one of the mega corporations. They climbed out and were a few feet away from it until he saw a glimmer in the dusty distance. From an instinct, he drew out his Glock and gave Zoda's to Tinsel. She was very hesitant. Rick, I never used a firearm before. Obviously, this was not much time to teach her, so he just told her to hold it firmly. He figured the safety was already turned off. As he adjusted his vision, a blue machine whizzed toward them. He immediately stopped and a pilot jumped out. Captain Falcon! Thank goodness! Are any of you hurt? No, we're fine. We managed to escape from Zoda's ship. The Silver Comet. Falcon went past them and inspected it. He too was perplexed that it never exploded since it was so beat and it was completely out of fuel. Wait here. I'll give the Comet a jump. He drove the Blue Falcon closer and stretched out some of the wires from the hood. He started it and gave up half of its energy. Luckily, he had its full tank and the rainbow bar kept dissipating until it reached the red-orange area. After about 10 minutes, he offered Rick to activate the Doom craft. It kicked in. However, it sounded a little noisier as it turned. It seems the comet is hanging in there by a thread. This should only be a temporary fix, at least until we get to Mute City where it's safer. Thanks so much. We couldn't have left this place alive without you. Still, we have to hurry. Dark Million can find us. Let's go. He immediately entered his vehicle and she came into hers. Rick was in charge of it, though. The trio headed out of Port Town at last through the closest warp gate the bounty hunter could find. They were thankful that he knew every nook and cranny of that enormous, congested place. The jolt was just enough to get to headquarters. When the comet became neutral again, it gave way. There was still some energy left, but it was too beat up to start again. During the night, Falcon repaired the critical damage with Clank and Lucy in the garage. It was so extensive that Tinsel may not compete in the next few races. At least that's what he theorized. Rick and Jack promised to take up the slack, although they were welcome to invite Leon, Beastman, Drac, Ragoma, and Shio in case they needed backup. Of course, everyone was aware that Luna and company would be there along with Mr. EAD at the Cosmo Terminal. Thanks to Clank's analysis, Cosmo Terminal. Fortunately, it wasn't until about a week, which gave the task force some time to mourn over a clash in train. After the young mechanics left, Falcon also wished that the tech geek was here as well, thinking how far they went. From the original Grand Prix 13 years ago when they first met, to Classish participation in the X races, to Falcon's brief visit at a distant bar in Mute City with Iron Silver, where he disguised himself as Famicom, and his time when he saved Clash from Black Shadow's captor. He would definitely be missed dearly forever. By the time he looked into the comet's hood again, something glowing caught his eye. It was in a circular container, almost looking like a big Pokeball. Well, at least that's how I describe it. Last time he didn't notice as he was in a hurry. This time he discovered something peculiar. Reactor mite? He was all agog by the sight of it. He was familiar with it, as there was one inside his own vehicle. Never thought Clash's prototype would also have one. Just out of curiosity, he examined the Elegance Liberty, then the Astro Robin, and lastly the Dragon Bird, where there was that same one. He locked his eyes onto it, thinking, Rick Wheeler. He's the one who will put an end to Black Shadow. He has to help me do this. Otherwise, there is no way. If I could just tweak his Dragon Bird, perhaps I'll train him to use it properly. He should do this. No, he must do this. Of course, this is going to be the same original Falcon, Douglas J. Falcon, not Burt Lemming or Adam Summer like it was in an anime. Yes, JP Legend is all three of those characters, but to me it's kind of awkward. I want Jodie's brother to exist as Burt in disguise, but Falcon will be Douglas J. Falcon, not Jodie's lost sibling. So, this fig is obviously a war fix, so of course there's going to be some sacrifices. He committed suicide. And don't get me wrong, don't kill me for this. I like Dr. Clash. Well, mostly in the anime, not the games. I'm not too crazy about the crazy bear. But he decided using the dying as yourself trope. So I decided to use that. Also, I like the part when Tinsel and Rick visited Port Town when she showed the astonishing sight as they began to bond with each other. I actually like the background in Port Town. Believe it or not, when I saw this as a kid, I was at a park once and I saw the sunset with the red and the vermilion clouds in the back. And it kind of actually made me think of Port Town. Believe it or not, I actually like the original version over everything else. Very beautiful, I gotta say. I wish I could hear a more tranquil song of Port Town as well. So, Dr. Clash is known to make the Hyperspeeder, the Silver Comet, the Dragon Bird, and I'm guessing the Blue Falcon. You'll find out what the Dragon Bird EX is soon, but if you've seen the anime, then you would know. Also, fun fact, the wall of flames actually reminded me of the tsunami from Undersea Adventure, which was extremely terrifying. I don't know, maybe I'll show a link to that. But yeah, when I was a kid, Jesus. Man, it was horrible. So Falcon made an amazing discovery within the Silver Comet and the Dragon Bird. Found a reactor mite in each machine which was similar to the one in his vehicle. What does this mean? Well, you're going to find out later. And I would imagine Dr. Clash and Lucy to have the same relationship as, like Sid and Luca from Final Fantasy IV The After Years, but I'm not really into that. And it reminds me of Chapter 5 from Save Jodie, so yeah. Alright, there you have it. Lap 8 is done. Well, actually lap 9. Lap 9 is done. So, next time, what would Falcon discover of the new reactor mites? What are they? And why did all three of those machines each have one? Did Dr. Clash actually plan this? Well, find out next time.